debacle has cost Boeing $9 billion and counting. Harris?
And lives. Doug McElway, thank you very much. Thank you for watching Outnumbered Overtime. I'm Harris. Here's Dana.
Breaking new details on the raid that killed the leader of ISIS and his possible successor as the president declassifies the photo of the canine involved that has everyone talking. Hello, I'm Dana Perino, and this is the Daily Briefing. More on the latest developments on those ISIS raids in a minute. But first, at this hour, there are a lot of moving parts in the impeachment investigation. Here's where things stand. House Democrats are preparing to release the guidelines for a formal inquiry just minutes from now. Tomorrow, a House committee will vote on those rules. And Thursday, the entire House will vote to authorize the next phase of the investigation, which Democrats say would ensure transparency. Now, all of this is happening as a national security official on that July phone call with President Trump and Ukraine's leader is testifying on Capitol Hill right now, saying he was concerned about what he heard. Congressman Michael Waltz is a member of the House Armed Services Committee, joins me now from the Hill. Let me first ask you about impeachment. We talked to you last week when you and a few of your colleagues had tried to get into that hearing. You're trying to make a point that the transparency was something you were concerned about. Does this new move by the Democrats help answer some of your concerns?
Well, I don't think we know yet, Dana. We don't know whether this new move is going to codify what's already going on with Pelosi and Schiff's committee. We don't know if it's going to address some of our concerns. We just don't know. I can tell you, talking to some of the Republican members in the hearing today, that they weren't allowed by Schiff to even question the witness that was there, the colonel that was there. In other cases, if they want to go back and read testimony, they have to have one of his staffers looking over their shoulder. So, look, the bottom line is the rules heretofore are being made up by two people, Speaker Pelosi and Adam Schiff. And they are the farthest thing in this town from honest brokers when it comes to the president. I don't know that we can undo the damage that has already been done, even if they do address our basic concerns of having counsel present, being able to call your own witnesses, and having this be an open and transparent hearing. The other thing I found out last week, Dana, was all of the testimony is unclassified. There's no reason to have it down in that secure room except to control the information coming out. And I still haven't been allowed, as a sitting member of Congress, asking for 3 weeks now, following the rules, to see Kurt Volker's testimony from 3 weeks ago, which apparently painted a very different story. So I continue to be very concerned.
Do you feel some vindication, though, that the points that you were making last week seem to have forced the issue for at least the Speaker to change her mind?
Well, again, this isn't about us. I want to make that point loud and clear. This is about the nearly 1 million Floridians I represent and Americans all over the country who have questions about whether this is a fair process. So if they're moving in that direction, and I say if, then that's a good thing. But again, I don't know that we can undo the damage.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Of course, we'll keep talking to you as well. Let me also ask you, because before you were a congressman, you've done all sorts of things in your life, including serving our country. And at one point, you were detailed from the Pentagon over to the National Security Council. So for Colonel Vinland, who is the witness today, what do you think about the smears against him and his character? I mean, is there a way to reasonably question his points without, smearing his character?
Yeah, look, I think there's too much smearing going on. What I'm trying to get at is the substance of what's being said, and I am rightly frustrated that I'm not allowed to have access to it. He is entitled to his opinion. He certainly brings expertise. Dana, you and I know there's all kinds of differing opinions about how a president approaches foreign policy. That's all over the National Security Council and all over the interagency. So he's certainly entitled to his opinion, but that's about it.
Just on the process of things, since you worked at the National Security Council, do you think that he followed the process? As far as we know, he was on the call, he had concerns, he took it to the General Counsel of the National Security Council. Does that all seem like the way it's supposed to be done?
Well, I think so. We are kind of in uncharted territory here, but what bothers me about the way Schiff is running this is the president can't have his counsel there to understand what's going on.
Right.
And that is just a basic fairness issue.
Let me also ask you about Syria. We're going to get an update in just a moment. Of course, there's a wonderful story about the canine who helps. But I also wanted to ask you, you wrote a book called Warrior Diplomat. And I wonder what you think the next step is in terms of, is there a role for diplomacy going forward? We're going to get a lot of intel from this raid and the killing of Baghdadi. What next, though, on the diplomacy front?
Well, I mean, I think we already saw diplomacy at play here to engage the Syrians, the Turks, and the Russians and get them to basically step aside in terms of their sophisticated air defenses. And getting in to get in and get Baghdadi was a huge win for diplomacy, right? That we didn't have to fight our way in to get him. But I think going forward, it's getting the international community engaged in the safe zone to keep the Kurds and the Turks apart. And I'm happy with where the president is ending up in keeping a presence in Syria to keep ISIS 2.0 from returning again. But this is a great day for America, a great day for freedom, and we all should be celebrating. And let's all take a pause from this partisan divide to celebrate this great victory. And Dana, I'm sure that Jasper would have gone after Baghdadi the same way that canine would have.
The bravery of our canines that are trained in the military, just incredible. And I know that you relied on them for your safety as well in the field. Congressman Michael Waltz, a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Dana.
Fox News Alert, we're learning new details about the military operations in Syria targeting the leaders of ISIS, as the congressman and I were just talking about. U.S. troops remain in northern Syria to protect the oil fields, and national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin is live at the Pentagon with these developments. Jennifer?
Dana, senior U.S. defense officials tell me when President Trump tweeted that Baghdadi's #1 replacement is also dead, he was referring to an operation that occurred after the Baghdadi compound raid. That is when U.S. forces targeted the so-called ISIS spokesman that Kurdish SDF leader General Mazloum tweeted about 2 days ago. Abu Hassan al-Muhajir was killed by a joint U.S. operation just hours after Baghdadi was killed. This individual, I'm told, was more than a spokesman. I'm also told the killing of the 2 top ISIS leaders in Syria is significant because beneath them are much weaker successors, and the killing of these top 2 leaders will leave a leadership vacuum inside ISIS in Syria. Intelligence from Baghdadi's compound is still being exploited. Baghdadi's #2 was living about 3 hours from Baghdadi's compound in Idlib province, also just miles from the Turkish border. General Mazloum, the Kurdish general who leads the Syrian Democratic Forces, who the U.S. has partnered with to defeat ISIS, told our own Ben Hall that Kurdish intelligence had a source inside Baghdadi's inner circle in the compound who led U.S. Special Operations Forces to the compound. According to Mazloum, the source was one of the 2 adult males captured alive and mentioned yesterday at the Pentagon.
There were 2 adult males taken off the objective alive, and they're in our custody.
We expect a briefing with CENTCOM Commander General Frank McKenzie here at the Pentagon on Wednesday. They hope to release drone video from the raid. There are issues with declassifying those videos. One of the photos that was declassified, that of the Belgian Malinois dog who chased Baghdadi down the tunnel and was injured when this terrorist leader blew himself up. We know the dog's name, which remains classified to protect its army handler. The dog was injured but returned to duty, Dana. It was likely wearing a camera when it followed Baghdadi down that tunnel. We don't expect those images to be released. Dana?
Well, thank goodness for that canine. I do have one question for you, Jennifer. Last week, one of the concerns was that in the chaos before the ceasefire, there were some ISIS prisoners that might have escaped. Do we know anything more about that?
Well, it's our understanding that the Kurdish fighters have basically kept those prisoners inside the prisons. They've stood guard. They didn't leave. And for the most part, there were about 100 prisoners released. About a third of them have been recaptured. And for the most part, the 10,000 are still under guard in those prisons.
All right. Well, that's certainly welcome news. Jennifer Griffin, thank you. Up next, Mark Thiessen joins me to explain why he thinks President Trump deserves praise for his handling of the Baghdadi situation, and also why things would be much different under a Biden administration.